Professional acrylic paint, reimagined. Most artists assume eco-friendly or natural paint means dull color, weak pigment load, or a compromise in quality. I refused to accept this was true and discovered it's actually quite the opposite. I'm Leah Fanning, and I started this business 15 years ago because I couldn't find art supplies that aligned with my high artistic standards and also my personal values. The story of how natural earth paint came to be is pretty interesting. It's not your typical avenue to starting a business. I didn't set out to start a paint company. I just wanted to be safe in my studio and keep the baby growing in my belly safe as well too. I'd been a full-time painter for many years, and I just found out that I was pregnant with my first child. Throughout my entire art career, I had always had headaches, dizziness, and respiratory issues while painting or priming canvases or opening bottles of solvent. And outside of my studio, I was very health conscious and lived a very natural lifestyle. But in my studio, I used all the typical supplies that I was told to use to create the highest quality and most archival paintings. I didn't question it because I assumed if it was really bad for me, my teachers in art school would have talked about this. I saw the hazard labels on my supplies, but just assumed they were necessary to create quality work, and it couldn't be that bad. But when I became pregnant, I had to make sure. And then once I started learning, I couldn't unknow it. So I asked myself, can I make my own paint without any heavy metals, solvents, toxic dryers, or petrochemicals? And if I used only plant or earth-based ingredients, would it still make a completely professional grade, light, fast, and archival paint? After spending my pregnancy studying the old masters' supplies and copying their time-tested recipes from the Renaissance, I used earth and mineral pigments and natural binders to create a full one-person show of new work. And what I learned was that these paints that I was making actually led to the most archival, light-fast, luminous, and UV-resistant paintings I had ever created. It was just better than the store-bought colors that I was used to. I made these paintings completely from the earth and minerals collected from around my home in Southern Oregon. After my child was born, I started making natural paints for him to play with as well. Then artist friends started asking me to mix paints for them while I was teaching them about the toxicity in their supplies. Soon after this, the idea of natural earth paint was born. It became my mission to spread this information that artists deserve to know. We started with simple mix your own paint kits, a natural oil paint kit, a natural watercolor kit. From there, we continued to develop high-quality products that didn't exist yet in the art supply field, like a plant-based solvent, a natural varnish, an eco-friendly gesso, and more recently, our line of natural acrylics and mediums. So how are the natural acrylic paints different? Natural acrylic substitutes a plant-based resin for the traditional petroleum-based resin. Then of course we use natural archival pigments, which are all tested for heavy metals. Then we took every single chemical, hormone disrupting, or carcinogenic additive and replaced it with a non-toxic and plant-derived alternative. These additives that are commonly in acrylic paint include dispersants, defoamers, surfactants, stabilizers, preservatives, thickeners, and several more. These additives are usually not listed on labels and can cause major health issues, and when washed down the drain, they enter our water supply. It took us 6 years of testing to figure out our recipe. But being a professional artist with very high standards, I wanted the paint to be equivalent or better than the highest professional grade acrylic paint, while also being compatible and mixable with them. So artists can mix natural acrylic paint with their current acrylic paints or mediums and just gradually incorporate them into their studio as needed. Some artists also choose to harvest their own pigments and make their own paint by mixing them with the natural acrylic mediums. We wanted the light fastness rating to be excellent for each color, a rich pigment load and chroma, and all of the archival, luminous, and durability qualities that naturally comes with earth pigments. We left out all the fillers and bulking agents, creating the highest quality paint possible without giving up an ounce of performance. With feedback from our customers after the first 2 years of sales, we decided to expand our color selection and include several new colors made with synthetic, non-toxic, and light-fast pigments. So now natural acrylic paints also come in primary color spectrum colors as well. Over 30,000 artists have already started incorporating natural acrylic paints into their practice.
I like knowing that my relationship to the environment is going to be deepened by the fact that these are cleaner paints and that I'm going to be able to wash them, and it's going to be one less thing for me to feel guilty about and actually be proud that I'm doing this. I like the heavy body's robust nature. It's not too heavy and it's not too light. And also the pigmentation, same thing. It's just so nice. I would strongly recommend this to anybody who wants to experience a closer relationship with your practice. I think this will probably make you feel like you're a bigger part to your own craft from start to finish.
They do feel very similar to a regular acrylic paint. Now, they call these acrylics, but they're technically not an acrylic because they are made from plants. So it's more of an acrylic alternative for people who have things like allergies or sensitivities to the different kinds of chemical compounds that are found in regular acrylics. I think we're all under the impression that acrylics are safer than oils, when in actuality that may not be the case, and it can also be dependent on what kinds of sensitivities you have as well. Some people are more sensitive to things that you have to use with oils, some people are sensitive to acrylics, and so if you do have a sensitivity to acrylics, this might be a paint for you.
I immediately wanted to jump in and just feel the texture and kind of compare it to conventional paint. I was immediately impressed. It was very smooth and creamy, and I loved the way that it mixed together really, really well. It blended beautifully and even better than some other acrylic paints that I've tried in the past. The colors were very beautiful and vibrant, and I would say they dry about the same rate as in a regular acrylic paint that you're used to. Overall, I was so impressed with the functionality and just having the peace of mind that these are plant-based products that you don't have to fear putting them in the sink, getting them on your hands, or breathing in the fumes over time.
We're living in a moment where the choices we make as artists, as humans, really matter. What we put into the world and what we bring into our studios is a part of that. Let's take a moment and reimagine our studios. Spaces where the materials on our palettes align with our values, where what we create doesn't compromise our health or the health of the planet. Acrylic paint has given artists extraordinary freedom for decades. That's really worth celebrating, and we're here to take it further. The stories you heard today from artists who made the switch aren't just about paint. They're about what happens when everything in your creative space feels right. When your materials carry the same intention as your art. That's when the real magic happens.